the ultimate alternative music channel. This is Revolution Radio.
Yep, new theme music because Derek hates the old one. So we had to come up with a new one. I know, Scotty's shaking his head. I know, Derek's so picky, isn't he?
Don't let him dictate anything.
Yeah,
just
true.
end up a nightmare.
True.
It's a good jam, though. It's a good jam.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, I appreciate it. DJ Craig G here along with Dimitri Alexiou, music historian, musician, teleprompter operator. Scotty Comer filling in for our pal Derek Lewis. Scotty from The Scary Loud and just a massive producer in downtown Toronto. You're currently working on a record, Scotty, so we're going to talk about that. Or you just finished a record, if I'm not mistaken.
Just finished one, yeah.
We're going to talk about that very, very shortly. Underneath Scott is, a very, very, very familiar face in downtown, in Canadian music, not only in Toronto music. I've known Christian. I met Christian back in 1997, I believe, for the first time when he was playing with a band that we're just about to talk about, and he's been doing a ton of stuff ever since then. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about with this fella. Unfortunately, his partner in crime, Carlos Alonso, could not be with us tonight because he is under the weather. And, like Dimitri was saying, there's something going around. So anyway, Christian, thanks so much for joining us tonight, my friend. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having us now.
And there it is.
It's gray hair. You said 97?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. A little bit here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've got a ton here. So I have none in my hair at all. I have no gray hair in my hair. I'm one of the lucky ones, right? So, but it's all in my beard. So,
Okay.
So yeah, I met
Just Drums, 97.
Yeah.
We were hanging out. Dave owned the shop then.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What was it? Dave Thompson?
Dave Hamilton.
Hamilton, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay,
I was in the staff right after a couple of key people left. And and then I met you there for the first time. But you were always super, super awesome and really cool to everybody there.
Nice
and,
to see you again.
Yeah, honestly, it's great to see you too, brother. It really is. And congratulations on everything that's going on. And of course, Dimitri and Scotty and I are going to talk to you about this brand new Glueleg record, which we're all super stoked about. So, Dimitri, let's get things going. And if you don't mind, a land acknowledgement, please.
Okay, so Canadian as Fuck acknowledges that the land on which we're meeting is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And Canadian as Fuck also acknowledges that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit.
This podcast is called Canadian AF, also known as Canadian as Fuck. Christian was actually on a podcast on this network, which is, of course, the Crier Media Network. It was on a podcast recently. I believe the fellow's name is Brenton on Tour, and I really want to have him on this podcast. Christian was on the Did Will podcast a little while ago.
And that was a good interview.
Yeah, so
that was a good
really
interview.
great interview. So if you get a chance,
really
crier.co is where you can check out that interview, and it's super awesome. But first, you're going to have to check out this interview. So we're going to get things going. Dimitri, take it away.
Well, I guess Christian, we're going to get into the brand new album Horror Vacui. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Vacui.
Horror Vacui. We're going to get to that very soon, but I think I just wanted to sort of set the scene with the song that I think that a lot of us were introduced to Glueleg through, and that would be Heroic Doses, which you,
Certainly.
with that interview in Brenton, you said that would be the one song you would go back to if, when you guys put together a live show for Horror Vacui.
Yeah. I think if we had to pick a track, that would be at the top of the heap for sure. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So we're gonna reacclimate all the people out there in the internet to Glueleg through Heroic Doses from the album of the same name from 1994. This is Heroic Doses on Canadian as Fuck on Revolution Radio in partnership with Crier Media.
I always love that.
The reason I'm shaking, the ocean breaking, the town forsaken. Cut out your talking, the moves you're making. A billion gawking, the fish you're baiting. Again. Systematic and somehow tragic. Put on your face and perform your magic. Scratch their backs and back their scratching. Make sure you cash in again. The river dying, despite your trying. A ball of silver, reward your lying. You sit fixated, alone berated. Adjust your statement again. The ends won't fit now. Condemn you out loud. Big talks you toted. Decayed, eroded. The grim sensation. Your black creation. Your black foundation. Again.
Just one of the coolest pieces of music ever. Ever.
Oh, that song makes me
Fucking
so
awesome,
happy.
man.
Wow, since I've heard that.
This is Canadian as Fuck on Revolution Radio, and in partnership with Crier Media, and we are sitting here with Christian Thorne Hayes Simpson, the drummer from Glueleg, and god damn, I just have to tell you, Christian, how much that song sustained a number of us through the pandemic
It
here,
really
you
did.
know, like
Well,
during
uh,
the
we'll tell
during
you
the-
all about it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. During the pandemic, one of our friends, DJ Force, like Craig G and DJ Forces, we would all they would have DJ nights here on Twitch, and then and we would just go crazy when I remember DJ Forces put on Heroic Doses one night, and we were just in the Twitch. Oh my fucking god, it's Glueleg, you know, and
Yeah.
and then for throughout the pandemic, we would have these DJ nights here on Twitch, and then one of us would just say Glueleg.
Glueleg. Every single broadcast. Because you can chat obviously in Twitch, right? So one of us would end up saying, Glueleg is next.
So
So long ago, and it still kind of blows me away that people still, because I mean, we were just a little blip on the scene, I guess. It's really great that people still remember and still dig what was going on, what we were doing back then. So
yeah,
right on,
you guys are completely unique. It's hard to describe. It's hard to describe that sound. It's like you were kind of like Faith No More by way of Shuffle Demons or something.
Yeah,
You
like
know
I
what I'm
always
saying?
exactly. I always felt that Glueleg was like 10 years ahead of its time. Always, like even with the new record, like it's like
Wow.
I always
Okay.
felt like you guys were just so far ahead of your time. And I remember getting that record. Ironically, you and I were talking about working at Just Drums, and then I went from Just Drums down to Steve's Music,
Mhm.
and that record was constantly on the CD player. And every time any customer that was kind of like our ilk, like our alternative ilk, would come upstairs into the drum shop, you know what I mean? They'd be like, "Oh, fuck, Glueleg, awesome!" Like it's honestly, man, like we don't want to keep blowing smoke at you because I'm sure it's probably happened to you 60 million times over the last like 25, 30 years.
He loves it. He loves it.
But honestly, like, I mean, I guess, yeah, really, who doesn't love it, right? Like, that record was so fucking good, man. And it just, anyway,
Well,
I have nothing but good things to say about that record.
When the last time I was at Steve's Music was as we were, we were working on the new record, and I popped in there. So it was probably a year and a half ago, and I hadn't been into a music store in 15 years.
I haven't been to Steve's since 2004.
Yeah, and it was all like electronic kits, like ready kits, So anyway, I went in, and my son was with me. He was 12, and
Nice.
so I went up, I grabbed a couple of sets of sticks. I can't remember what else I was getting. Went up to the counter, and the guy, his name was Jesse.
Jesse
He worked.
Shapiro, I know him very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so he recognized me,
Right.
and he's like, Christian Simpson. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, and he made some comment to the other guys in the shop. And,
Yeah.
And then he said, I actually have your CD in my car. Would you mind if I ran down to get it and just so you could sign it?
Nice.
And this is the first time in a music store in about 15 years. And I've got my son with me. And I'm thinking, oh, well, cool, dad'll, so he comes up and sees.
This is Toronto, though. His car
And
was
he
like
signed
4
it.
blocks away.
Yeah.
That was 2 hours later. He came.
Well, I mean, he could care less. My son was, can we get out of here, man? Like, I was just like,
yeah.
Oh, that
well,
didn't
it's
impress.
such a moment for me.
Oh man, come on.
And you're pulling the, like hauling on my arm, like, can we get out of here? Let's go.
Yeah.
And so it just completely went, it lost on him.
Yeah.
Aw.
So anyway, yeah, it was a great feeling for me.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So long, and so us drummers, we
stick together, right? What can we say? Yeah, that's right. Nobody else sticks around for us, so we've got to stick together.
You guys
So
are
you-
maniacs.
Yep.
So
we
you've
are.
been through a bit of a journey over the past few decades. Glueleg, am I right? And is it true that Glueleg broke up in 1998?
yeah.
Yeah. And what was the immediate cause of the breakup?
The
Okay,
fact that they were 10 years ahead of their time.
we had released Clodhopper.
Yep.
Was that the one on Pure Noise?
Yeah, in EMI was they had,
Here, yeah.
and so anyway, I think that record it did okay, and a lot of people really liked it, but it didn't do enough, and I think that it was just a hard sell for Canadian radio. They didn't really embrace it, didn't know what to do with it. It didn't mean they didn't like it. I remember hearing from lots of programs, and then they're like, we love your album, but we're not allowed to play it.
Oh shit. Okay.
So and we kind of got that because we were definitely were different sounding than most of the stuff that was on the radio at the time. So I think that the label just
Definitely,
kind of I don't know if we're going to pick up, do another record with these guys. So we were, we went in and recorded an album, and it's actually like there's a finished record that I don't know if it'll ever get released.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Does it still belong to EMI or where is it?
No. But that was, it was recorded with Ruben Chowder, myself, and Andy Wise. So, yeah, we would all have to agree on releasing that, and we kind of it's not really something we're all kind of eager to put out there. So
Was it did you end up having to change your sound a little bit or anything? Or like what was it that made you, or is just now in hindsight it's like it doesn't really represent anything we want out there?
no, it's not that. I mean, I was quite proud of it. I mean, I think it's a great
good.
sounding record. It was produced by Matt DiMatteo, who was
Of
pretty
course.
hot.
Yeah.
I mean,
We all know him well. Yeah.
and anyway, it was the Edwin project that kind of got threw a bit of a wrench in the gears.
You worked with Edwin for a while.
If you will. Well, Ruben decided, he was going to go and work with Edwin, and so that, kind of took him to that picture. And then, I was kind of thinking, well, what am I going to do? So I ended up going along and doing a stint with Edwin, and then I guess we just kind of moved on to I was in the biz for a few years longer. I did after Edwin, I was in Saga for a couple of years, and then that was it. It was just okay. I got to kind of move on. I didn't want to. I was going through some issues with my arms and my hands, and kind of had to. Yeah. It was. There's a lot of stuff going on. So anyway, so I just kind of moved away and started whole different, went down a completely different path. And
you said it was condominiums, like that you started condominium business.
Yeah. A cousin and myself, we started a business, and it's just like condominium services. We kind of trying to figure out what we were going to do, because, after being a musician for most of my life at the time and having odd jobs here and there, I didn't have anything, so anyway, it was a real
me too.
Yeah, we all hit that point.
Yeah.
And then during the pandemic, you and Christian sort of reconnected. Carlos reconnected.
Yeah. So Carlos and I hadn't spoken in quite some time, and he was being very productive. He was putting out solo records, and he was really, really working on his production craft and his mixing. And this record, the Horror of Vacui, it's exceeded both of our expectations.
Did he produce it then? Record and produce it?
Yeah, Carlos produced it. He did the mixing as well.
Sounds great. Yeah,
we had it mastered by a guy named Christian Wright at Abbey Road. The Abbey Road. I mean, you can do that now in this new world we live in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he really put just, he just gave those tracks just what they needed. I mean, it sounded great, and then we sent it to Christian, and he. With this, so we're really, really happy. But, a lot of that was just due to Carlos's, him getting those records under his belt, which, he was, so he'd stayed with music, and he's got, other projects on the side, work wise, etc. But music was always still a real driving force in his life. And I never thought I would get back into it. But he always kind of, I think when he was in the band, when I first joined the band, I went and auditioned for him and Ruben, and so anyway, I was like, okay, you're our drummer, and so I'm in the band now. We really connected musically, and as far as our interests and the groups that the musical our musical influences were very similar. And so anyway, we hadn't talked for years and years and years. And then we bumped into each other and started hanging out just socially, just go out for drinks and group of old friends. And he would kind of constantly keep kind of working on me. Right.
Yeah.
Were you keeping up your chops at the time, or are you not?
No. I had not even looked at a drum stick. I picked one up in about, 15 years before I finally caved and, and it was also moving out here, which allowed me the space to actually do. So, this wouldn't have happened if I just had one of those condo kits from Steve's, would have been something to hang laundry on, I'm sure.
Where were the drums recorded on this album? They're really roomy.
In my pool room.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ah.
So remember when we first moved in here, my wife and kids, and so there's an indoor pool, and it's a good sized room. And I remember walking in and just sort of snapping my fingers, and you could just hear the reverb.
Yeah.
And thought, yeah, this would be a great sounding room.
This is my when the levee breaks moment.
It's a unique, it's a unique sounding room. That kit,
Yes.
And that album really sounds like something. When as soon as it caught on, I was like, that's a different sounding room sound for drums. Yeah.
And the fact that you walked in and snapped your fingers, that meant like you knew that you were going to pick up the drums again. You knew.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you knew.
I've been lugging around a couple of kits for decades. 20 years anyway, and never set them up. Didn't have the space to in Toronto. And finally, when we got up here, I did put up a small set, and I thought my boys might want to play.
Mm-hmm. My daughter plays mine.
No interest at all. But so anyway, I would kind of just look at them and go, oh, I remember when, I know how to make those things work. But, I just thought, Carlos again, kind of just working me over. And I just said, no, I can't. I'll be horrible. And, my chops are all gone. I'm old. There's no way, I just can't do it. Anyway, I remember the first time I sat down and started playing, and, when you're just playing sort of, I guess it was just for fun. Mm-hmm. And it's a real different experience, it's a different feel altogether. And I thought, it's quite enjoyable while I'm watching the rusts kind of falling off,
Yeah.
And just felt it kind of coming back. And there was a point where I said, you know what, I think I can do this. Mm-hmm. And then we just started to work on just different, ideas, pieces of music. And from that, we decided to just kind of do it ourselves. Bring in a few guests here and there. We were going to make it decided to make it an instrumental album, and to really, take quite a departure from the earlier stuff, because again, we're not those people we were then. Our influences are,
of course,
vastly different, and the stuff that I listen to and enjoy now is quite different too. So we wanted to kind of embrace all of it and come out with this new. A new vision and version of what the two of us were about anyway.
Right.
Sorry.
And originally Chowder was supposed to be was thought he was going to be a part of this, right? But then there was from what you wrote on Facebook in September, there was a difference in the musical direction, so what was it that Chowder sort of objected to? Do you know?
To be honest, I don't. I'm not really sure what it was, but I never really said. It was just, he's just not. He didn't want to do it. Whether he could commit to it or it was a time. Mm-hmm. Other things going on in his life. I completely understand.
Yeah. So much time.
But I think that the music was a bit of a departure for him. I think he probably would have preferred if we had sort of stuck with the older sound. I don't know. Again, you'd have to ask him.
Right.
We definitely wanted to do something different, but there is a thread that connects to the older stuff.
I think so. I think so. Because if you even compare some of these songs that you have on Horror Vacui to something like going back to Angst in 1992, it's still got that funkiness that was there in 1992 and the syncopation and everything, so, and Angst doesn't have a lot of vocals on it either. So I can I can see it's just there's just a maturity that's happened over the past 30 years, so, I still see this as Glueleg,
So well, great, and we were, concerned about that, calling it Glueleg. But, should we call it, Simpson Alonso or Alonso Simpson, or, and then, we just kind of thought that, we were both important parts of that band. So, why not? And at the time, Chowder was part of that decision. I'd been talking to Andy a little bit. He didn't commit to playing on anything, but, the door was always open. So again, it started off as the three of us. Okay, Glueleg, we're going to do a record. And then Chowder decided he wasn't going to. And then we started, okay, we're still going to call it Glueleg. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
We haven't, there hasn't been a lot of, most of the feedback's been very positive. We haven't heard anything with like, this isn't Glueleg, and to be honest, if you were expecting us to sound like we did in 97, 95, whatever, you weren't really paying attention, I guess, to what we were doing, because again, if we were always trying to kind of just explore and do something different. So we didn't want to just go back and kind of copy ourselves in that sound.
And you guys always, you always, for me, that was one of the things I loved most about Glueleg, was the fact that you guys never seem to repeat yourselves, like kind of, and I think really good artists do that. Solid artists do that, like the repetition factor. You're trying to write a new record every time, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a Primus fan in the band?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the was it Havana Syndrome is a crazy Primacy song. It feels like
right.
Yeah. To me, Havana Syndrome. Yeah, I think that was the one.
Yeah, it's a big lot of drums going on. It's a big percussion song.
Yeah, super cool.
There's some big bottom end there too. That's a very enjoyable track. Actually, what I was playing along to in my head, and the main section of that track was a song off of King Crimson's Discipline album. So I was playing Bill Bruford, where he wouldn't play, on the ride or the hi-hat. He would just on the octave bands and snare. So I was kind of like stole that one.
More tribal that way. Yeah.
But I get the that Primus thing. Yeah. I was a Primus fan, but Carlos was a huge Primus fan. I guess certainly be a bass player, and then also there's Chapman's stick on that.
Mm-hmm.
On
absolutely
that track, Havana Syndrome, and so that again is the Crimson thing, So yeah,
super cool. Yeah.
Do you think though that as time has gone on that there is more of a prog influence than there used to be in Glueleg?
Well, we were the two proggiest guys.
Okay.
I think Carlos and I both kind of brought the prog. Ruben was, he was a Rush fan, but he really liked Black Sabbath and Beatles, and I think he came more from just a songs and songwriter, but like heavy big guitar.
So you guys are off the leash now with this one.
So we were the prog guys. And I grew up. I loved prog rock all through the 70s and
who are some of your favorite drummers aside, obviously from Bruford?
Bosio, Vinny Colaiuta,
one of my favorites. Yeah,
he's everybody.
yeah. He's like a public utility. Right?
Yeah. Can do anything. All the Zappa guys, Neil Peart, of course, Bonham.
Yeah,
the big guys. But then there's a lot of guys. I'm sure you and I could talk drummers all night, right? And everybody else would be just like.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Okay.
So I could just throw out names on next couple
Tony
hours.
Thompson, Mel Gaynor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mel Gaynor, I think, is quite underrated.
I totally agree. I also think John Ferris from INXS, very underrated. Great. Is
that right?
Great player. Yeah, I think he's awesome. Yeah.
I never saw it, but big Simple Minds fan, Mel Gaynor.
Yeah, just killer player.
Is that Phil and Don't You Forget About Me?
Of course, yeah. Great one too, and Alive and Kicking as well. Okay, sorry guys, sorry. Drum nerds.
But you told Brenton that you and Carlos aren't really jazz players, but it's just like there does seem to be a jazz fusion element going throughout Horror Vacui, there was a jazz fusion element going through Prague in the 70s. So
I guess I meant more traditional jazz.
absolutely, yeah.
I listen to a lot, almost more. I listen to more jazz than anything now, I guess. Love it, and I'm working on it, and that's a different aspect of my playing. That's something that I didn't really play back in the old days. I was more like just smashing the shit out of everything and hitting really hard, and now it's more of just drummers like God, I'm drawing a blank now. He was a guy that played with Pat Metheny, and he did the soundtrack for Antonio Sanchez.
Oh yeah.
Watching him play, it's like circles, and the movement is just so. And it's
another guy that I just love is Jojo Mayer, who's just like that too. Just such a absolute fluidity. It's just wonderful watching him play. Yeah.
What does your 12-year-old think of jazz?
Likes it better than most of the others.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
really?
Good. Yeah, you don't know a lot of 12-year-old jazz fans.
I gotta ask you, do they like it better than Glueleg?
They, you know what? They don't listen. They don't.
No.
They never kind of acknowledge it.
Yeah. It's because you're dad. You're dad. You're not rock star. You're dad.
Yeah, I remember hearing an interview with the guy from Billy Joe from Armstrong, I guess, from
Green Day.
Yeah.
And he just, his kids are just like, think he's the uncoolest guy in the world.
Sure, yeah. That's their job. Their job is to think that.
It is. It's who you are, right? Your kids are always going to think you're just because, they see you, on the couch in your underwear, scratching your butt. You know what I mean?
That's right. They're the ones that bring you down to earth, right?
Yeah. No mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw Buddy Guy on Saturday at Massey Hall, and he was taught. And he's 86, and he'll start rambling for a little while, and then he was talking about his son who's in his 20s, and saying and his son didn't give a shit about any of the music, that he didn't give a shit about the blues or anything, and then so he would just want to play a bunch of hip hop and everything, and then one day his son happens to catch somebody else playing a Buddy Guy song, and then it's wait a second,
what is that?
And then he's like, I didn't know you could do that,
Yeah.
And then suddenly he picks up a guitar, and now Buddy Guy brings his kid on stage at his own show on Saturday.
Awesome.
So
yeah,
nice.
I don't know what your kid wants to be when he grows up, but you can't predict,
Yeah.
So
no, for sure. And and they're young, and so who knows what, I've always kind of had instruments lying around and really hoped that they would pick one up, and but there's a lot of things vying for that generation's attention. Number one being video games. Go down the list, phones, et cetera. So it's not necessarily sitting down and practicing your paradiddles for the next 4 hours.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes.
My dad's a gynecologist, so he was leaving around stirrups and stethoscopes and what have you, and it didn't take. I ended up being a musician. So I get it. You go the opposite way.
That's right. Yeah. That's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice, buddy. Christian, I was wondering if you could. Scotty Comer, Scary Loud, everybody.
I'm out.
That's right. Good mic drop. Good night.
See him.
So, Christian, I was wondering if you could talk just briefly. I'm sure it's been well documented over the years, but I'm just wondering, if you could talk about kind of your early takes of Glueleg back in the day. Like you said, you auditioned for the gig. Yeah. So how did you end up meeting Carlos and Ruben and everybody? How did that all kind of start taking shape? And what were, if you don't mind, maybe just sharing a couple of earliest memories of the band getting together and becoming essentially what we know as Glueleg.
Yeah. So I was playing, and I was in some working cover bands. I was actually in a Supertramp tribute band.
Nice. Oh, it's great music. Great drumming music. Yeah.
It's great fun to play. And
What was the name of the Supertramp tribute band?
It's called Asylum.
Okay.
It's track title off of Crime of the Century.
Crime of the Century. That's
It
right.
was good. It was a good band. But I was doing that, and I thought, well, I'd really like to play, something more original. Get involved with some, guys that are doing something that, might be something up my alley. Something.
How old were you at the time?
Late 20s.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I'm quite a bit older than the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there was an ad in Now magazine. Is that even still going? I don't even.
I'm not sure.
I think it's digital only now.
Yeah, I know the headquarters used to be on Sherborne.
Sherborne, yeah. So that was your go-to, right? Now magazine was, a big deal back then. So anyway, I entered an ad, and I think the ad was King Crimson, Rush fans looking for a drummer.
Wow.
No, they cited those two bands. Okay.
Yeah. And there might have been Jane's Addiction and Faith No More in there as well.
Perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Remember, so I thought, what, this sounds interesting. So I went down and met the guys. Went down to the basement. They had an old drum set there, and I remember Carlos had a Chapman stick, and I was like, "Fuck, that's cool."
That's a Tony Levin instrument. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd never seen one before. I knew what it was, but I'd never seen anybody playing it. Anyway, so we played King Crimson's Red. They're like, do you know Red off of Crimson's album? And I was like, yeah. No, so we banged through that, and can't remember what else we played. That one stood out, and it was kind of like, okay, let's do this. So I had decided, and they had decided on me at the time. It's like, okay. And we just started rehearsing.
Wow.
From that Supertramp band I was in, we, of course, had a sax player, which was Andy. And we went into, Carlos Rubin and I went in to record Park Alien, our EP.
Okay.
And there's a track on there, Cultural Faux Pas, I think, or Galactic Cat. One of them, we wanted horns on it. So we brought in Andy and this other guy, Alex, that was a friend of Andy's who played trumpet. They came in and just laid down a horn line, and on top of what I was doing, what Chapman Stick was doing with this big, Sabbath guitar going on. And we just thought, well, this sounds unique. Mm-hmm. So, we decided to add the horns.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
It definitely changed the sound. It took it in a different direction, and it opened up, where there was more we could kind of do with the sound, of the band. Mm-hmm. And he comes from, he was a big Steely Dan fan. He was a big Wayne Shorter fan, jazz guy. So, Carlos and I were kind of prog guys, Zappa guys, Crimson, and Ruben was sort of the Beatles Sabbath guy. And we just kind of made it all work. There was never any, you can't play like that, and you can't play, it was just like, do whatever you kind of bring what you have. And, it was an interesting sound.
Nice.
So just going back to jerking you back to more to the present day. So 15 years off from drums, and you were worried that you weren't going to know how to play. And then yet you said that but as you said, you felt like you emerged an even stronger drummer. And why do you think, any theory on why you think you emerged even stronger?
Yeah, I mean, now I'm not as fast or powerful, or there was just a real rawness and aggressive nature to how I played back then. Now I think it's just through listening to a lot of different music, a lot of jazz players, a lot,
Yeah.
different styles of playing music. And, I'm a huge fan of a lot ambient music, a lot of Brian Eno, that's stuff. And so it's almost more about just the sounds and the sonic, the different textures of what you can kind of pull out of a drum. So, and that's where some of that jazzy stuff came out. You can hear it in a few tracks on the record, which I'm, super proud of. Hugo and the Fish, A Zero Day is another one where, I'm playing way vastly different than I did back in the day. And that's, and it's a much more delicate approach, and more of that kind of circular playing as opposed to
Now, how much of that came to you when you heard the source music versus you were listening to jazz, you admired some stuff and thought, oh, I'd like to work that into something, like wagon horse thing, like how did that come about?
Yeah. Well, it that went both ways. I mean, there was some of this stuff was scaffolded on just a drum groove that I might have just recorded, laid down, sent it over to Carlos, and then he would, send it back to me with this whole different world on top of that. And then, then that would then inform where we were going to take that piece of music, there's like, again, that song, A Zero Day. I know I think we've got like 19 versions of that in the first.
Wow.
Whoa. So were you live off the floor then? Or at least two instruments.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Like, I just, record the stuff live and shoot it over to him. And then he sent back this version and it was just like right out of, he sounded like, Tony Banks. it was just this beautiful Genesis song. We were both laughing our asses off. We're like, we can't really release that, can we?
I think that's off of Trick of the Tail.
No, it was more like Duke,
more Duke. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
Anyway, we might actually release that on an EP, like the original version of A Zero Day. But then, it kind of morphed and really changed dramatically into what it is now. My part of it became, a lot, kind of jazzier and freer playing, and Carlos was just bringing in all kinds of different tones and textures and stuff like that, and that's one of my favorite tracks on the record. I think that is almost that and Aegis. I think the first track off the record is one of the threads to the earlier Heroic Doses sound, and then from that you get to Zero Day and some of that other jazzier stuff. I think if we had come out with just that, more of that, the jazzy thing, and we didn't have some of those harder edge pieces that we have, it would have been more of a, this really isn't, sounding like anything we've ever heard before. So it's great to hear, talking to you guys here. It's quite different, but there is still a connection to the
Well, it's hard for me to choose. I had a really hard time choosing one song from Horror Vacui to close out the interview with, but I just have a couple more things, because like you mentioned an EP that you and Carlos are talking about releasing, like as a sort of companion piece to Horror Vacui, right?
Yes, because there was a track that we really wanted on this, but we just didn't, it was going to take too much time, and we wanted to get this thing released. It was, almost a year and a half or over that from when we first said we were going to, start working on a new record. So we just thought, let's get it out. And we've got some other odds and ends and stuff that we will put out on an EP. And so, because we're going to keep going, we're going to do, we're going to start working on another record. We'll see, see that one takes us. It won't, I think it'll be probably similar to where we're going, but we've already got some ideas on taking it to another place. So yeah, the EP is I don't know, a few months away. And
okay. And then Brenton asked you about like your plans for live shows. I don't know if you've thought about that since that interview, like you and Carlos talked about it more.
We are going to get it together. It's going to take a little bit of time. We've just got like there's a lot going on right now in our worlds. So we are going to we've got to put together a group of people that are going to play with us, because it's not necessarily something we could just pull off, the two of us.
Yeah,
wanted to hit it like sounding like the way it does right now. Certainly I'd need another drummer, and we're going to need it's not a lot of guitar on it, but there is. We would need probably a guitar player that could also play bass.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really excited about doing this, putting a show together.
That would be amazing. And
that would be so cool.
So yeah, it was, as I said, it was very hard to pick just one song from Horror Vacui to close out this interview.
Can't wait to hear what it is.
So anyway, I thought about Havana Syndrome, which Scott mentioned earlier, and then I listened to the album as I was getting ready for work this morning, and I just thought that I just thought that a lot of our listeners would really get something cool out of Pyroclastic, and so do you have any impressions of that song that you want to talk about?
Love the track. That one I'm really proud of. I think it's quite unique, and that has the drum section in there is it's all just kind of layered. I was just playing over parts, like there were a lot of kind of overdubs on that. And the big 30-inch gong drum, and so there's a lot of weight to that song. That's one's different. That and again, I'm really proud of that one, because it does kind of, again, that's one of my favorites.
Cool. Christian Thornhay Simpson.
This has been so freaking cool, dude. Like, we can't thank you enough, honestly, for coming on. Like, this has been awesome.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So how do I see this? Where are we? I don't even know. Are we live?
So basically what this is live right now on our Twitch channel, which is, let me do a quick front sell here. It's twitch.tv/Revolution Radio Canada. We are going to be turning this into a podcast. As soon as things are done, I will email the stuff off to you and Carlos, so that you've got everything you put up on your socials and all of that good stuff. But yeah, again.
Yeah, so we're on all the streaming sites.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's a double album. So it's you said it was like 87 minutes, I think, right?
Yeah.
87 minutes worth of Glueleg goodness. Christian Thornhay Simpson from Glueleg, thank you so much for joining us. And all the best, and and when that EP comes out, maybe we'll have you back to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get Carlos on.
Yeah. And we we'll all be there when you guys play live, for sure. So
for sure.
Okay, so from
I said we'll stay in touch.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Christian. We really appreciate you, man.
So from Horror Vacui, which just came out just a few weeks ago, this is Glueleg with Pyroclastic on Canadian as Fuck on Revolution Radio in partnership with Crier Media.
Awesome. Thanks again, Christian. Have a great night, brother. Thanks.
Okay.